Hello, guys. Welcome back to the C2C Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about sales calls, whether or not they work, whether or not DM sales calls are better than regular sales calls. And I'm actually doing this podcast episode from like a little booth here in Florida. So right now I'm up in Florida. Me and my wife, Lorna, hosted a retreat. The retreat is the Unstoppable Badass Retreat. We have a bunch of ladies that have come in that are looking to basically improve their relationships, improve their relationship with food, improve their mindset, improve their physical state. So I did a little bit of talk on hormones. And then, of course, we're going to have a relationship talk tomorrow as well. So this is going over the span of 2 days, but it's given me a very unique opportunity to do one of these episodes in a live setting because you can really take your business anywhere as a coach and you can really create content anywhere as a coach. Of course, as I hear all these background noises, and I'll leave a little bit of like an unfiltered thing, you guys are going to hear the filtered version where there's not going to be all these craziness in the background. But back to sales calls. I had a lot of questions over the span of this week from my coaches asking if sales calls work, because it's normal for coaches to see some people doing sales in DMs and then also to do sales as just like regular consult calls. So which one is better? Should you apply both? Should you stick with one? Why would you stick with one? These are all questions that we're going to go through. And I'll start with sales calls in general. I personally love doing sales conversations. I love hopping on calls, learning about people, hearing their goals, connecting with them one-on-one before I go and share with them what's involved in my program and how I'm going to help them through the process. And the reason why is because for me, I'm a big networker. I value kind of a personal connection. And because I'm working with everyone inside of coach to coach one-on-one, it's really important that I actually get an energetic vibe to make sure that this is a good fit. Because if I'm hopping on a call and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this energy, this person isn't vibing with me, well, then I'm not going to be inclined to actually like continue to work with them. So I'm looking for energy on a consult. I'm also looking to pre-qualify to make sure that they're the best fit. And then from a consultation, I'm really looking to learn really about their business, what they're looking to achieve, why it's important to them. So that way I can take them to the next level inside of the business. Sometimes it's not a good fit. Sometimes these people are right. And when they're right, it's all in and then it's easy. So for me, the sales call is really about the connection piece. That's something that I can't get through the DMs. However, there are many coaches that I work with, as well as my wife does only DM sales, and they work just as good as consults. And here's what I would say is the only downside to consult calls or one-on-one calls is you're going to get to a point where all of your one-on-one spots are filled, and then you're going to run out of sales time. So this is really important because coaches need to understand when they're building a business. Am I going to build a business based around a team? Am I going to have a bunch of employees, people doing the sales calls, virtual admin screening applications, or am I building more of a solo build? Me personally, coming from a studio where we had a bunch of employees to now having an online company where I have a tight team of 4 people, I'm choosing to work one-on-one because I love the flexible lifestyle. I like being able to just pop on a call, work with this person individually. And so I'm opting out of a group model because I'm doing what is in alignment with me. So I can afford to do the one-on-one conversations. I can afford to invest the time into individual consults because that's built into my model. Now, as I continue to grow, and my goal is to get to 50 coaches a year where I'm working one-on-one, I'm going to get to a point where once we hit about 35 coaches, I'm going to bring on a sales associate. And the sales associate is going to be taking the calls and having the conversations, and I'm going to just focus on the coaching piece. My goal inside of my business is to take my sales from which I focus on the lead draw and the lead flow. I focus on extracting lead quality, and I focus on the client delivery. It's what I love to do. I love to build content. I love to build value. And the sales piece, I can offload that to someone else. So I already have this in mind as I am building my business. I already know that I'm going to be offloading that as one specific part in my business, and I'm going to hire a teammate for that. Now, DM sales, this is where when you're looking at your business model or your coaching model, you can really say to yourself, well, if I don't want a large team, and if I want to be able to have a group coaching program where there's maybe 50 people to 100 people on a call, there is no way that hiring a sales associate makes sense unless you're doing high ticket like 10K for your groups. If it's anything less than $4,000 for your program, ultimately DM sales probably makes the most sense. And the way that DM sales operates is you're still going to have someone fill out an application. You're still going to pre-qualify them by asking the same questions that you would inside of the consultation. And I always opt for audio DMs in which like your voice messaging back and forth. And then once you've qualified someone, that's when you invite them into the program by sharing the price and sharing what's involved. The process actually works the same. There's not one that is better or one that is worse. When you have consultations, you build emotional connection, you pre-qualify, and then you offer up your price point. If someone is already qualified, they're going to take you up on your program. The same thing can happen with DM sales. You have a conversation, you pre-qualify, you get them emotionally invested by asking their why, and then you present the options. So both are available to you and both are good. You have to recognize, or the way that I would choose if I was running like a different coaching business is I would say, what is going to be my business model? So I shared with you guys that I want to do one-on-one versus doing group. And then I would also ask myself, is my skill in sales or is my skill in delivery? If my skill is in sales, which mine is, I don't have an issue selling because I just think of it like a conversation, then I don't have a problem hopping on consult calls because I get fired up. I get excited every time someone is in front of me. But if someone doesn't have a strength in sales, if their focus is just delivering to their clients and putting out content and value, and you want to do more masterclasses and webinars, then I would even argue as a coach, why do the sales piece when you could just DM sell? Because DM sell is just about building trust, building a high level of value. And then at the end, this is where you're just like, hey, look, either you join or you don't join. And I'm sure you've seen tons of coaches on your feeds that are happy to share a $4,000 or $5,000 program in the DMs. Here's the secret to doing that though. On a consultation, because you build rapport, it's easier to drop a 5 or 6K number, or in my case, a 15, 20,000 number without really any hassle. Because when I do that, I know that someone is emotionally connected to me. I can see them. I can feel their energy. I know if they're a good fit before I even present it. The key and the way to do this in DM sales is for you to fully 100% embody and trust yourself as a coach. The coaches who are confident in selling in the DMs are not afraid to showcase their price. As a matter of fact, if someone keeps asking about the price over and over again, they just outright and say, listen, my program's 5K. There's monthly payments and installments. I'm really just here to see if it's a good fit for you. If you energetically can't stake the price and be okay with someone leaving, if you energetically feel like you have to have a really long conversation before you go and tell someone about your program, then I'll tell you DM sales won't work. Because just like in a regular consultation where you're having a conversation, DM selling is not about convincing someone to join. It's not about justifying an hour-long conversation before you say the price. It's about stepping into your power and saying, hey, I'm the coach for you. Here's the program. You take it, or it's going to be on to the next person because that spot is going to be filled. You have to authentically and genuinely feel confident with the message that you are sharing and with your program. Otherwise, DM sales won't work. I like consults. I think they're great. I love the energy. My wife loves DM sales. They work for her. They save her energy. But for me, it's really about how I want to build my business. If you can't envision yourself doing sales calls, then don't do them. I don't care what anybody says. So many people are like, no, you have to come in with a script and ask these questions. That's not genuine. And I don't actually believe you have to do that in sales. I started with a script, recognized that the script was holding me back because it was preventing me from connecting with people. I abandoned the script. And by abandon, I didn't stop using the tools. I still asked those harder questions, but at the same time, I recognized that I could ask them in a more free flow way that felt natural to me. Now, there's times where I do DM sales. So if the program is less than $2,000, there's no point in me having this hour-long conversation because we're getting to the same place. Either you're in or you're out. For $2,000, it honestly doesn't make sense for me anymore. And it's not worth it because it's not worth my time. So this is where something like an 8-week program like client converting content that we're doing right now, that's $14.99. I'm looking at that and I'm like, you know what? People are either in or they're not in. And for me, I can justify saving that time by just doing another free webinar or free masterclass. Always think about your time as putting an actual dollar value to it. In sales, it is important that you understand what is the dollar value of that hour or 30 minutes, depending on what your consultation is, and how can you maximize that? Because when you start making 30K, 40K in your business, like I'm running ads every month, I have a lead cost, I have an acquisition cost, I also have a time per hour that I have to recoup. So as an example, I'm spending $1,500 a month on ads right now. That's peanuts. I'm going to be upping that to 3,500. So right now, 1,500 a month because I'm testing different ad spends. Now, of those ad spends, I get about $166 per lead book. So that means out of the 1,500, $166 is what it takes to get someone on a call. Now, my consults start at 15 minutes, but they're maximum 45. So what my goal is in the first 15 minutes is to pre-qualify you and make sure that you are the right fit. I asked to see where your mindset's at. I asked to see how many times you've worked with a coach before. I'm looking to see if you have clarity on your goals. And then if I warrant that the conversation should continue, then I say, hey, I know we talked about this being 15 minutes, but I think that I can help you. You want to just unpack this and go through with this today. I extend the time, but if not, I end the 15 minutes right there and I reclaim my time. So my 15 minutes ends up being $98. And my hourly rate, my goal right now is $355 for my hourly rate. If I hop on a consult and that consult is an hour, that's $355 plus the 166 that it took me to get that person on the call. That means that to speak with that person and deliver that value, I'm $700 in almost. So for me, that hour is very important. And if you guys as coaches start treating your hourly time like it is that important to you, like every single day is a potential $10,000 day, you start having different conversations. You also start asking harder questions and you're not afraid to push people in. So it actually doesn't matter, guys, if you are doing consult calls or you're doing DM calls, they work the same. It just has to be in alignment with you and you still have to follow the proper steps. Now, here's one thing that I'll say about sales calls before I end this video. I worked with a coach who really had a hard time selling. And for some reason, they felt uncomfortable selling stuff in the DMs. They felt uncomfortable selling in the consult. And sometimes you have to ask yourself, why do I not want to do the consultation? There are some people who genuinely a consultation is not in alignment with them. Cool. Let's move to DM selling. But there are some times where I hear coaches that say, I don't want to do a consult. And when I look at the fact that they can't sell in the DMs and they can't sell in the consult, what that shows me is that they are afraid to sell, period. So you have to ask yourself, if I'm going to transition from consult to DM sales, is it because I'm afraid of asking people on the call? Is it because I'm worried that they're going to say no? Is it because I can't handle objections? Or is it because it's actually not in alignment with me? Because when I sat down with her and we started to go through and really break down the sales process, and inside of Coach to Coach, I teach the prescriptive method. We got her to start naturally prescribing her program. And when she just started recommending and making prescriptions, just like a doctor to a patient, the sales fear went away. And she was like, holy cow, I'm actually having a lot of fun on these sales calls. They're giving me a lot of energy. But see, she had to claim that first. She had to fix what was out energy wise. And what was out was that her sales skills weren't that up to snuff. And I can tell you something, a lot of coaches are really good at coaching. And so they think that they should coach on a sales call to get more sales. No, selling is serving. Coaching is coaching. When I'm serving someone, when I'm prescribing someone, a doctor is not trying to give you all of the tools up front. They're there to tell what's going on, and then they make the prescription. And they do that because they don't even know if you're ready or if you're in. So what I would take a look at is, how are you feeling about sales currently? Do you feel good about sales? Is sales a really strong skill for you? Or do you suck at sales? Do you maybe feel like, oh, you know what? Maybe that's something that I need a coach with because I've always felt really uncomfortable selling. I can coach like no tomorrow. I can do the delivery, but when it comes to selling, holy cow, I'm out. And then once you ask yourself that question, once you say, am I good at sales or not? Once you fix that one thing, then you can say, is consults in alignment with the way that I'm going to build my business? Do I want to do one-on-one calls? Do I want to invest that time in which I have to put a time per hour? Or if I'm going to do group, is it easier for me to then do either DM sales or even group sales? I've done that as well too. Group sales are super fun, but you got to be really skilled at it. That's how I would decide whether or not you should do sales calls or you should do DM conversations. Either way, there's still a skill in sales that is there. And a lot of coaches are afraid to sell. If you are a coach that is afraid to sell, that's exactly what a mentor like me is for. Besides helping people create client converting content to address those objections ahead of time, I also help people create this prescriptive method inside of their coaching where it becomes very effortless for someone to be able to just make a recommendation for the program. And that's how you should feel. You should be able to make a recommendation without being worried as to whether or not you're coming off salesy. I can help you with that. We still have 4 spots available for C2C program for March. So you can either DM me on Instagram at Coach Andrew Costa, or you can go to www.growmycoaching.com and there's an application that's there. It'll learn more about your business. It helps me understand where you're at in terms of your business. I'm just looking at these kids here playing some pool. I've got like a, what do you call that? You know, the silicone beads where people throw the rocks? Or geez, drop in the comments if you know what the game is. Sure enough, I'm going to do this episode, stop recording, and then I'm going to know what the game is. But you throw the rocks across the wax beads and it stops and there's kids playing pool and it's just beautiful scene. I love doing episodes in scenes like this. It's why I love doing retreats and traveling. It's absolutely phenomenal. But anyways, go to growmycoaching.com, hit the C2C program, fill out the application, let me learn about your business, and then it will lead you to book a discovery call so we can unpack exactly what's there. At the very least, you're going to get an action plan of what you should work on. At the best, we're going to start working together and it's going to be easy for you to get sales and you're going to be fired up to do consultations, regardless of whether it's in just regular consults or the DMs. Thanks guys for watching this episode and we will catch y'all later. See ya.